longtime NFL insider John Clayton is with us. John is the sideline reporter for Seattle Seahawks radio broadcast. He's on ESPN 710 in Seattle, and we are about to kick off the season this week. Here's John Clayton back with us. Hey, John, how are you?
Good to be back.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it crazy? The football season, we feel in San Diego, like the football season has kind of snuck up on us because we don't have a team in San Diego anymore. And the Padres are actually good for the first time in 20 years. But I would think that in an NFL market like Seattle, I know my friends in Las Vegas are all excited. I got a lot of friends that are Rams fans in LA that are pumped up. The season is here. It's kickoff time. What do you say?
I think it's exciting. Of course, what's even better is that you don't even have to wait till Sunday. Thursday night, you've got the two highest paid quarterbacks in the league. You got Patrick Mahomes going against Deshaun Watson, a game between two playoff caliber teams and maybe a Super Bowl team. And so I think that's exciting. And then you start to look at the roster maneuvers and the signings and DeAndre Hopkins getting a big deal to stay with Arizona. And then you've got the deal that got done with others. And it's just going to be it's a fun time. And I love this week because, again, I get so excited when you get to Sunday. The only bad part is, one, not being able to travel, and two, not being on the sidelines.
Tell me about it. I know it makes me, not just upset from my own personal, selfishness, but there's nothing like being on an NFL sideline. And frankly, I do think a lot of things happen that you, me, whoever's down there gets a chance to cover that you won't have access to that sort of information. John, explain for everybody who's listening and watching how you will be doing sideline reporting for the Seahawks radio broadcast, but not being on the field. Explain that.
Well, because one, like most broadcast teams, the 710 ESPN Seattle is not going anywhere. Anything they're going to do is either going to be in the studio or a station. Okay, for me, what's going to be so different is the first time in, 3-4 decades is that I'm not traveling to games. I'm staying here at home because there's so little access. You can't get individual interviews with players. You can't be on the sideline. If you're going to be a sideline reporter, the only thing you can do is sit in the stands in a certain area and then text a PR person to find out injury updates. Like, for example, once I get done here, I've got to contact the Falcons and see if I can get the text number of who's going to be doing the updates on injuries, because if not, what I'll be doing during the course of the game, and Jen Mueller will be doing on the Seahawks sidelines, is just trying to do injury updates when you're not going to be near a PR person, you're not going to be in the press box, and you're not going to be in anywhere close to finding out what's going on. Like even, for example, on the network broadcast, what the sideline reporter has to do is the same thing as Jen Mueller, sit in the stands if it's a home game, or be at home if it's a road game, and try to be able to listen and find out what the injury updates are. So it's going to be very difficult. Fortunately, I'll be on the broadcast, but it's going to be so hard to get the information.
Can you guys imagine? Imagine a broadcast where the play-by-play person are they going to be in the stadium, John?
It's debatable right now. It depends. There's a little weird thing that's going on with the NFL. Now, for example, the Seahawks, the 710 ESPN Seattle, I'm right next to the VMAX, okay? And the VMAX line that goes to my station is on the same line as it is over at the Seahawks. So their preference is to be able to do it over at the VMAX, which is the training facility of the Seahawks. That's the most convenient for them. But the NFL, because of the piped-in music and stuff like that and the piped-in crowd noise, they want you to be at the stadium. And that's going to be a little bit tougher to do because, again, you'll be watching everything on road games from TV sets. Now, it's okay for the home games, but they're still trying to sort that out. There's a lot of things right now in these broadcasts that are still being sorted out. And, again, where everybody's going to be is a big question.
So, John, what's so interesting about this conversation is that at 710 in L.A., John Ireland, who calls Laker games with Michael Thompson, they're sitting in a studio. They're watching it on a monitor, calling it on radio. You're going to be in your home on the broadcast, like doing a radio show while everybody's watching the same game.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. And that's going to be – but again, everybody has to do things differently. Like, for example, you saw in baseball this year, you can't go on a road game, and so you have to do everything at the stadium there. And, of course, one of the problems here on 710 ESPN Seattle is that they're not letting more than only a handful of people into the building, into the studio. So, like, for example, only the producers and I think one host can be in the studio at any given time, and that also goes to FM and all the other stations. You really can't assemble, so you have to do most things from home or a different area, and that's going to be a problem that everybody's trying to deal with.
John, I need your help. Okay, you're the professor. I feel real stupid right now. I need some high level professor level education.
Got it.
Leonard Fournette didn't get picked up by anyone off waivers. Leonard Fournette was the 4th overall pick. The Chicago Bears, their starting running back David Montgomery is out with an injury. They didn't even call Leonard Fournette. What's going on around Leonard Fournette that no one was jumping at this guy?
Well, nobody put on a waiver claim because he had a $4.1 million guarantee in his base salary. And so if you liked him or didn't like him, if you picked up that deal, you're paying him $4.1 million if he shows up or whatever happens. And so nobody wanted to pick that up. And so what he ended up doing is taking, I think, a $2 million deal with Tampa Bay. But I was baffled why, Chicago and Philadelphia did not get involved. Because when you look at it, it's like, okay, are they really good with David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen as the running backs? I mean, Fournette would be better. I know that he's not the quick twitch type of guy because he's more of a physical, bigger back. And so I can what I'm figuring out is how many carries is he going to get in Tampa Bay, because they're saying that they're going to have Ronald Jones as a starter. They have LaShawn McCoy to be on the 3rd down backs. So how many carries is that going to be for Leonard Fournette? So they pick up the talent. He was the 4th pick in the 2017 draft. He's been up and down as far as all this different stuff. And so in the end, I think that you can see that I think Chicago made a mistake on this one.
All right. Our longtime NFL insider, John Clayton, is with us here today on a Tuesday afternoon on Kaplan and Crew. Stay with that theme then, John. Leonard Fournette, like Browner was saying, nobody jumped all over this guy. We were all surprised. But to hear about his contract status, that makes a little bit of sense. But I don't know, we kind of all get a sense that maybe people don't like him. That he's a bad teammate or a bad locker room guy. I mean, it's just a perception. On the other hand, there's been a lot of talk about Alvin Kamara possibly being traded by New Orleans. And now the story is that he's about to sign a new deal. And so New Orleans and Tampa will play week 1. So move over to the New Orleans side. What's going on with Kamara?
What's going on is that he had that little hold in where he just didn't work for 4 days. Now, they didn't fine him or didn't do anything like that, but he was trying to get the point that is like, hey, if I'm a $13, $14 million back, you better pay me, because he realizes if he doesn't get paid this year, then most likely he's going to get the franchise tag at a decreased price that could be as low as $8 million next year, because the franchise tag is tied to the salary cap, and the salary cap is going down. Then, of course, he watched Joe Mixon, who believes he's better than, getting $12 million. So what ended up happening is that Sean Payton was kind of holding his cards until the weekend. He then makes a move, and Sean flies over to Houston with 2 coaches to see if he can get Jadeveon Clowney on the defensive line. But, of course, he only had $6.9 million of cap room. So what they ended up doing was trying to call Baltimore and a couple teams to see, hey, can we try to do a sign and trade? And that didn't work out. So now they didn't get Clowney. He ends up going for a $12 million one-year contract with Tennessee. And now what goes next is going to be the idea that, now they can have the money, or at least the ability to work something out to take care of Kamara. And now he becomes the priority. And I anticipate something being done in excess of $12 million a year.
Sticking with the running backs theme here in Southern California, Sean McVay said that the Rams are going to play all 3 running backs. Now, is that a possible trend that he's starting, or is that simply the fact that, hey, man, we had no preseason games. I really don't know which one of these guys is actually going to be good for me? What do you think about the situation with the Rams?
I think it's a combination of two, because Darrell Henderson's had injury issues most of the padded practice time, and you really don't know what you have. In fact, I was surprised they didn't go for Leonard Fournette, because I know that Jalen Ramsey was trying to push to get him out there, and that could have been something for $2 million. It wouldn't have been too bad. But yeah, I think what it does show. Now, one thing that we know is that, say what you want, Sean McVay, once he established himself as a Super Bowl caliber coach, I mean, he got all the credit for being the offensive genius. But what he also didn't give other credit to, and it's not his fault, is that he learned this offense from Kyle Shanahan. And Shanahan, doesn't matter who the backs are. He finds a way, like Mike Shanahan did, to be able to get all these backs to perform at a very high level. And so you look at last year, I mean, it was almost the same type of thing. Once they kind of figured out, it's like, okay, let's go through the season and we'll try this back, we'll try this game. Raheem Mostert's ended up coming out being the main back, and deservingly so, and now he looks like he's going to start this year. But sounds to me that McVay is going through the same thing that Shanahan went through last year.
Hey, John, the NFC West seems to be absolutely loaded this year. I think that division is probably going to be the one to watch for the most entertainment. Who do you see being more of an impact, whether it be the tight ends that the 49ers have or the secondary that the Seahawks have? Because picking up Jamal Adams was a huge thing. I didn't think they gave up too much for him, but I felt like it was the adequate amount for a guy of that capacity. How do you see those two guys carrying those teams this year?
Yeah, I think that the Adams move and some of the moves that Seattle has made on defense with speed may give them a slight edge over San Francisco, which had a lot of injuries at wide receiver. They have question marks on the other side of Richard Sherman at cornerback. And so you throw all that together, they're both 11-win teams, okay? But I think we're Seattle, because you cannot believe when you watch Jamal Adams. Now, obviously, nobody's seen him in the last 3 years. The Jets aren't good. And so because of the Jets not being good, they're never on national TV. So now you look, and I watch Jamal Adams, and I'm telling you, he is phenomenal. The first practice that I saw, Russell Wilson only threw like 6-7 interceptions last year. And so Russell's very good at protecting the football. Here's Jamal Adams, who's only had 2 interceptions in his career, stepping right in front on a goal line play, intercepting the Russell Wilson pass, running 100 yards for a touchdown, and the team just got so jacked up. When I watch him, and his energy is phenomenal, his football knowledge is great. Most people think in scouting, he is the combination of Brian Dawkins and Troy Polamalu.
Wow.
In 3 years and 3 Pro Bowls, they think he's on the way at the age of 24, 25 to having a Hall of Fame career. So you have him. Then you add Quentin Dunbar, who Pro Football Focus ranked as the second best coverage cornerback in the league last year, a Pro Bowler on the other side in Shaquille Griffin, and then their free safety is, Quandre Diggs, who has been a 2-time Pro Bowl alternate the last 2 years. They've got more speed at linebacker. They got a better pass rush right now, and Russell Wilson looks his absolute best with more speed at wide receiver and the deepest tight end group in football. They look good.
John Clayton is with us, and it's Tuesday, but the NFL kicks off on Thursday. Okay, John, you ready? I'm going to go into some short answers here, okay? I'm going to throw a whole bunch of things your way. Alex and John jump in, but let me just throw a few things your way and just give me some short answers here. You ready? Yeah. Raiders and Panthers kick off this weekend in Carolina. No more Cam Newton. Just a real quick one. What do you think about the Raiders' first year in Vegas, and what do you think about Carolina's first year without Cam?
Well, it's going to be a bad year for Carolina because they gave up just about everything on defense. And so this should be a Raider win. Carolina's going to be drafting in the top 5. But I still think with the secondary problems the Raiders have, they're going to be more of a 7-win team.
The Colts play the Jaguars, and while nobody cares about Jacksonville, what do you predict will happen this year between Frank Reich and Phillip Rivers?
I think that Frank and Phillip will take this team to 11 wins and nudge out Tennessee in the AFC South. I think that when you look at what Phillip can do with the weapons he has and the best offensive line he's ever played behind, I think he's going to have a good season. In fact, for the Washington Post, I predicted he's going to be in the final 3 for the MVP.
But is everybody playing for second in the AFC because of the Chiefs are still so good?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Baltimore may not concede that. I mean, they think they can beat the Chiefs, but right now I think the Chiefs have too much offense.
Dolphins and Patriots. Excuse me, Brown, real quick. Dolphins, Patriots. I want to hear what you think about the Patriots now without Tom Brady and with Cam Newton, who, by the way, has just hit a home run here because you have the coach and the organization and the fan base. You have everything built in New England that you didn't really have in Carolina. Now he has to actually go play. So what do you think about New England with Cam?
I think, Cam gives them the chance to maybe make a run at the AFC East title. I think they're going to fall short because it's not Cam. Cam's going to be a good addition and can get him a couple extra wins for Bill Belichick. But the problem is they're weaker on offense than they were last year. I mean, are you really satisfied with 2 rookies and Larry Izzo as your tight ends? Mohamed Sanu, they cut. So they're weaker at the wide receiver position, and they don't have a right tackle. They're down 4 linebackers. Their top 4, 2 out of their top 3 safeties. They just lost too much. To me, they're not making the playoffs.
Yeah, Rams, Cowboys. We've heard so much about Dak Prescott's contract. I think I took part in negotiating that thing at one point. What is he going to be like in such another game, another big stage game, another primetime game for the Dallas Cowboys against the Rams?
I think he's going to be fine because look at the Rams. I mean, with Sean Robinson going on the NFI list for who knows how long, at least 6 games, all they added on defense was Leonard Floyd, who was cut and let go by Chicago. Is that enough to replace a 2-year drop where they've had 11 starters and a nickel cornerback go on defense? No, that's too big of a drop. And so what you're looking at is that I think there's a distinct advantage for Dak. He's got CeeDee Lamb, one of the best 3 receiving cores in the league, and of course Amari Cooper. He's got Ezekiel Elliott and a very good offensive line. They win that one.
Now, Drew Lock has been talked about as being the next breakout guy. I don't see it, but people keep saying Drew Lock's the next breakout guy. Titans Broncos. Was last year a fluke for the Titans? We're about to find out. Tell me about Drew Lock. I think Drew Lock is not going to be the next breakout guy.
No, it's like I think he's going to be good, but how good is going to be how he syncs up with his three receiver core. I think Jerry Jeudy's going to be the best of the rookie receivers. I really like him. I liked him at Alabama. I liked him even more than Henry Ruggs, particularly Ruggs not wearing the robe at the that he did at the draft. But I think what you're looking at is Jeudy, to me, reminds me of Marvin Harrison or Antonio Brown. And you put him with Cortland Sutton. I think that's a great 3 receiver core. The combination of Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon, if Gordon can at least handle the mile-high conditions, I think that could be okay. He'll be good, but I think it's more the surrounding parts that'll make him good.
All right, as the resident non-Charger hater member here, I have to ask about 2 questions with the same game. Chargers at Bengals. How good do you think Joe Burrow is going to be in the NFL? And how long will Tyrod Taylor be the starting quarterback for the Chargers until Justin Herbert takes over?
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if Tyrod has most of the season. It depends on how long because I had to make a bold prediction for the Washington Post, and I made the prediction, and it's like, okay, there'll be no worse the first this year. 15 out of the last 17 years, there's been worse the first. But really, the Chargers of the 4th-place teams, I think, are the only ones that have a chance to make the playoffs, but only as a wild card. And so I think Denver may nudge them out as far as getting one of those last spots for the playoffs. But overall, I think the Chargers will be good. But if they're going to be in the playoff race, I think they're going to stay with Tyrod Taylor and then, just kind of put Herbert on scholarship and let him grow.
John, before you go, last one. Buccaneers and Saints. You talk about the most pressure-packed game of the entire weekend. Drew Brees is at home. Tom Brady's playing his first game for Tampa. So how do you see it going?
I think New Orleans just has the better team, even though it got closer, adding Leonard Fournette, just as far as talent. But what I like right now is that, I think really the better pass defense is going to be the Saints because nobody talks about the addition of Jackrabbit, Janoris Jenkins, and he is a great cover guy, absolute sensational cover guy to go with Marcus Lattimore. And then you look at the Bucs, and they have a lot of young cornerbacks out there, a young secondary. I think that what you're looking at is the Saints right now, to me, are a 12, 13-win team. Tampa Bay could be an 11-win team. Maybe they can get to 12. But that home game is going to decide the division, and I think it's going to go to the Saints.
All right, John Clayton. Hey, John, great to talk to you. I know it's only week 1. We got a long season ahead of us. Hopefully the NFL makes it all the way through. Thank you for being with us always, and have a great week 1 broadcast. I can't wait to hear how it goes next week.